Army training exercise lasting for 2 months across 7 states called Jade Helm 15 is underway.
500 paratroopers jump into a nearby field. It's part of Jade Helm training.
It is a preparation for martial law.
We reach out to the guys that we know. They volunteer their land.
And why does this leaked map of the Jade Helm exercise show Texas, Utah, and part of California as hostile territories?
It's a document, but it doesn't have any context or subtext associated with it.
Governor Greg Abbott asked the Texas State Guard to monitor Jade Helm.
He has been very pleased with the progress of the training exercise.
The U.S. training exercise this summer called Operation Jade Helm 15 across 7 states.
Speculation about why the military wants to train in American communities instead of military bases is fueling a growing number of theories across the internet and social media.
So how counties were picked in Texas comes down to this. The land was volunteered by the private landowners. They came to us. Okay? They are not getting any reimbursement for volunteering their land.
Says Big Spring landowners paid to accommodate Jade Helm. This is McLeland.
What do Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Texas, New Mexico, California, and Colorado all have in common? From July 15th to September 15th, each of these states will be part of a gigantic military exercise held by Uncle Sam on U.S. soil. In fact, one of the biggest in
Training
U.S.
exercise this summer called Operation Jade Helm 15 across 7 states.
Speculation about why the military wants to train in American communities instead of military bases is fueling a growing number of theories across the internet and social media.
Unused Walmarts were going to be staging areas, FEMA collection camps, and that there were underground tunnels. There are disturbing things. We should say that out of those 7 states we just named, only 5 are going to be a part of these active military operations.
Army training exercise lasting for 2 months across 7 states called Jade Helm 15 is underway.
500 paratroopers jump into a nearby
Says Big
field.
Spring landowners paid to accommodate Jade Helm.
A preparation for martial law.
We reach out to the guys that we know.
History,
They volunteer their land.
And why
What
does
do
this leaked
Arizona,
map of the
Utah,
Jade Helm
Nevada,
exercise show
Texas,
New
New
Mexico,
Mexico,
and part
California,
of California as hostile territories?
It's a document, but it doesn't have any context or subtext associated with it.
Governor Greg Abbott asked the Texas State Guard to monitor Jade Helm.
He has been very pleased with the progress of the training exercise.
The U.S. military is planning an unprecedented training exercise this summer called Operation Jade Helm 15 across 7 states.
Speculation about why the military wants to train in American communities instead of military bases is fueling a growing number of theories across the internet and social media.
One of the biggest
Training exercise this summer called Operation Jade Helm 15 across 7 states.
Speculation about why the military wants to train in American communities instead of military bases is fueling a growing number of theories across the internet and social media.
And that there were underground tunnels. There are Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Texas, New Mexico, California, and Colorado all have in common. From July 15th to September 15th, each of these states will be part of a gigantic military exercise held by Uncle Sam on U.S. soil. In fact, one of the biggest in U.S. history. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Jade Helm 15. You will hear people saying that this is secretly a program to institute martial law, especially the rumor that these unused Walmarts were going to be staging areas or FEMA collection camps, and that there were underground tunnels. There are disturbing things. We should say that out of those 7 states we just named, only 5 are going to be part of these active military operations, having soldiers and special forces assets on the ground. And according to official accounts, what they are doing is training for future overseas operations. Essentially, you could say this is a dress rehearsal for a war. Or when you see most of the commonplace reports of this sort of stuff, you see the tip of the iceberg. and not the big explanation under the water, beneath the surface, about why this stuff is occurring. Jade Helm is a challenging 8-week joint military and interagency unconventional warfare exercise conducted throughout Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado. Complaints are that there might be people going around carrying blanks in their guns, and this has the population of these areas worried.
Once we get to the core of the economic drivers and making sure that we've got issues of infrastructure being able to be taken into account, and acknowledging that so much of the environmental footprint isn't about our total number, but it's about where we live and how we live, sustainable communities. The right way to deal with population policy is not through an arbitrary and ultimately senseless debate about total numbers.
Coalition's very prepared to support policies that ensures a greater spread of the population and supports regional areas. But we shouldn't kid ourselves that happens overnight, and we shouldn't kid ourselves that absolves a government from the responsibility of seeking to manage things that were within its control, which is obviously the migration program.
The philanthropist and entrepreneur Dick Smith made his first fortune selling consumer electronics. He rode waves of economic growth. Now he wants to get off.
I've benefited from the growthy economy without any doubt more than most people, but I've come to realise that it's going to destroy Australia and the world for our children and grandchildren.
I think it might have focused on population growth in the next decade at least, to be more specific about that. Because I think in the next decade it's pretty clear that migration is going to remain relatively high. If we're going to have 250,000 new jobs in Australia each year, and the domestic labour supply will at best produce about 100,000 of those. Throughout Australian history, migration has been driven by labour demand in Australia. And there are periods in Australia, and sometimes long periods in Australia, where migration was close to zero because there was very little labour demand in Australia. So '30s, but also mid-1970s, early 1990s, strong labour demand, and we can expect lots of migration as a result of that.
If you were to set targets 5 years ago, it would have been done without knowing anything that we're about to have a global financial crisis, nor understanding the implications of mining boom Mark II, where the dollar would end up, where our terms of trade would go.
So what defines China's policy in this, and how can it help fulfill the UN Sustainable Development Goals? That China wants to be a staunch safeguard and contributor to regional and global peace and development. As China sticks to its multilateral approach to global governance, as China sticks to its multilateral approach to global governance and the Belt and Road Initiative, how can China contribute to the global efforts to achieve the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals? Is willing to align its development planning with the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, meaning the 17 Sustainable Development Goals.
The Sustainable Development Goals are breathtaking in their ambition. I think we can use that word. Eradicate poverty, provide clean drinking water for everyone, peaceful and stable societies. I mean, they're very idealistic, and they're comprehensive. Of course, they're detailed in so many ways that one shudders almost to think, how can they be accomplished? So we start there.
Yeah.
China, though, it's good to hear China's leadership talking about working with the United Nations and within this framework, because if these goals are going to be established and